Hi, this is Dave Michaels, and welcome to a TalkingPointz interview. I'm going to be talking today with Matthieu. Say hello, Chris.
Hey, everybody. How are you?
Excellent. Chris and I are going to be talking about IoT and what's going on in the enterprise. But before we get there, Chris, I think I met you. I was trying to think about when I met you. I think I met you. It must have been about 2010. Teleku, is that the right name?
That was my last startup that was acquired by Voxeo and the Tropo gang.
That's right. Yeah. So we were at some conference, and you presented Teleku's very interesting use of telecommunications. Voxeo, as you mentioned, acquired it, and Voxeo, it was actually the Tropo team within Voxeo. And you were working at Tropo. You were working with that gang for quite some time. I think you were there when they moved to the West Coast. And although you didn't move, you're in Arizona.
Right.
And it was somewhere during this period you grew the stash. Is that correct?
That is. I had a great fun time with the Tropo guys. Was there a couple of years as head of their biz development, and went to work for Bechtel in the middle of that. Bechtel's like a $30 billion company that's into everything from construction to mining to communications to you name it.
Now Bechtel really is, although they would probably never admit this, really is an IoT company. Would you think that's fair?
That's where a lot of these ideas, these next gen ideas came from. I was heading up emerging technologies, and you're right. I mean, the whole thing, everything you touch with cranes, everything comes with sensors today. And the problem is that everything is proprietary. Everyone wants you to buy their systems. Their sensors only work with their systems, and I saw that opportunity as something to disrupt, and left Bechtel to start what's OctoBlu, and that was our main mission. Was how do you disrupt and all of these various platforms and bring everything together so that anything could talk to everything was really our mission.
So we just got to finish your story there. You started OctoBlu, and now you're at OctoBlu, but OctoBlu is now a division of Citrix. I don't really understand that one, but somehow when did that happen?
Yeah, so December 2014, Citrix acquired OctoBlu, my new startup. So I think we were about a year into the company, and we had a lot of traction. I mean, we were working with Intel. We were partners with Intel already, with Splunk, with a lot of other companies, and doing some interesting work with Citrix. And Citrix said, wow, I think the enterprise needs this IoT. And they've acquired us, and we're now a product of Citrix. We're basically in a tech preview. So, I mean, it's free to use while we're still building the engines, so to speak.
Free to use and free to steal, right? It's open source?
Matter of fact, probably 80 to 90% of the entire OctoBlu platform is open source, and it is MIT licensed, which means you can build anything you want on top of it and even label it as your own. And
okay,
we're cool with that.
I want to get into OctoBlu in detail here, but before we do that, two things that you got to explain. You got to explain how this actually came out of a Terminator movie. There's and then the second connection is, or the second point is the name OctoBlu. If you can kind of hit those two.
Yeah, I'd love to, and it really did. I was struggling with this idea that while first all the home automation things started coming to market, 3, 4, 5 years ago.
I did my entire home automation in 2008. It's all obsolete, but I did it. I did a whole. I could open my garage doors, turn on my fireplace from my mobile phone. Man, I got this all nailed with absolute obsolete technology. So that was 2008.
But you experienced the same thing that I did. I call it app fatigue. It's like you have to open your app to do anything with any one of those devices, right? You want to open your garage, you got to open your garage door app. You want to turn on your lights, open your Hue app, whatever, right?
It's actually too old for that. The app revolution didn't come out till a little bit. Remember, the iPhone came out in 2007, so this was right. So I've got one app, but it's all proprietary and it's all whatever. It's all whatever. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. It didn't used to be app fatigue. It used to be remote fatigue.
Yep. Remote fatigue. Then I went to app fatigue, and then I was sitting there watching Terminator Salvation for like the 100th time. I love all the Terminator movies, and it hit me. It just dawned on me that it's like, look at Skynet, right? Inside of the Terminator movies, it is a mesh network that's global mesh network, resilient to disruption. Anything could talk to anything, so it truly was cross protocol. And what I mean by that is, like, the drones could talk to the T-1000s, that could talk to the Hydrobots, and the machines just all knew how to communicate and plan. And the original intention of Skynet wasn't to kill humans. It was when it started becoming self-aware, and we tried unplugging the machine that it got angry.
What are you doing, Dave?
Yeah, so I mean, the whole idea was it was going to be built to protect us, from nuclear threats or whatever, according to the movie. But it hit me. I was like, wait a minute. If all of this proprietary stuff going around and all this app fatigue, if Skynet really existed, where my Nest could talk to my Philips Hue and say, when I turn on, you turn blue, where things could just talk to each other in a perfect world and be resilient and never be taken down, I was like, if it was Skynet for good, that's what I want to build. That's what the world needs. And true enough, we started on Skynet.im as our domain, and started building an entire open source machine-to-machine instant messaging platform. And then later, as we started understanding that this had business opportunities, my business partner said, we're never going to be able to sell anything that's called Skynet. You know that, right? So hence the new name. And OctoBlu was his idea, and it took me a little while to warm up to it because I was focused on building Skynet. But it came from the blue-ringed octopus that's found in Australia. It's beautiful, but it's very deadly, and we thought that's what we were building. And what I mean by that, it's only 6 inches long, and if you approach it or scare it, all these blue rings light up on the octopus, and it's beautiful. But it has enough venom to kill 26 people, and its venom is like 10,000 times more powerful or potent than cyanide. So we thought, wait a minute, it's elegant and disruptive. That's exactly what we're going to do to all of these vendors that don't want other vendors to work with them or their products. They want to own the whole walled garden around sensors. And we wanted to build something that was completely open. Anything could talk to everything.
Well, I think you blew it there, because I looked it up, and as you said, when you scare it, it turns blue, but it's normally green or gray or green, something like that.
Yep.
That's when it's friendly and approachable. So you should have been Octo Green. That would have been, instead of deadly. But okay, so your point there about I don't think I watched Terminator more than once or twice. Actually, maybe a few more times, but not 100 like you. But there's actually an older book series. They made a Colossus book series. They made a movie called The Forbin Project. It's like in the 70s. And the idea of that book, very similar to Skynet, was the U.S. basically turned over defense systems to a very sophisticated computer that could monitor everything and understand everything and react much quicker than humans could and all that stuff. It was the doomsday kind of scenario. And instead of a doomsday, what it ended up doing was apparently the Russians built the same type of computer, and they ended up interfacing. And they got along just fine, and their directives were to world peace, and so they ensured world peace. They kind of turned humans into slaves, but it was peaceful, right? And no bombs went off, and no cities were destroyed. And so both of these stories, Terminator and the Forbin Project, are both about turning over a lot of the intelligence to these computers. And now with all this AI coming out about, there's more and more merit to this. We got self-driving cars, we've got all these, where we really want to just turn over a lot of the day-to-day decision-making. It was like 10 years ago I got my first, maybe it was longer than that, 15 years ago I got my first car with ABS brakes. And the brochure said it checks the brakes and the driving of the wheel, whatever, like 30 times a second. And, a human can't do that. It's like, well, 30 times a second, that's a lot of times to check the brakes. realistically, when you're driving and stuff like that, there's all these things to be checking 30 times a second, not just the brake. So I guess the question is, doesn't it make sense, IoT aside and OctoBlu aside, doesn't it make sense? And when we look at things like, we got an election year going on, should we be building something like Colossus or the Foreman project? Is the presidency now too small or too big for one person? Is there just too many inputs? Or is it just going to be impossible to program this thing because we don't know whether to increase taxes or decrease taxes or whatever? Just kind of a side thought, just to handle that one quickly.
I can tell you the sci-fi authors must be having a field day with the pace of technology today, because you're right. I mean, the first step, the table stakes was to connect everything together, and then now we're automating things. Now we're adding machine learning on top of it, then next artificial intelligence, and all of those fields are respectively making tremendous progress. So I look at this as I think it will make our lives easier or safer. When I look back on the Bechtel days, if you could save one human life, there was no price tag associated with that. And when you look at those big machinery, like out on a work site, a giant crane, if that thing starts tipping, right? You've got all those sensors to start notifying people, horns going off, text messages, just get everyone away from the cranes.
Yeah.
I think if used properly, it will save lives. It will make our lives more efficient. If every day I come home and I do the same 5 things, I open the garage, I turn the garage light on, I turn my living room light on, I turn the TV on, and I grab a beer, for instance. It would be great if OctoBlu would say, "Hey, Chris, I see this pattern. Would you like me to just do this for you?" I was like, man, now like your brake scenario, now I don't have to think about this simple things like that anymore.
But the problem is programmatically that doesn't work, right? I mean, I've got, again, my home automation, and the hallway lights go to a night light mode at something like 10 p.m. at night, and the hallway's just kind of very dimly lit, which is great, except for when you're having a party that night, or you got the house is all lit up, and all of a sudden the lights just go down. And so the programmatically, or at least 2008 programs weren't smart enough to figure out that, hey, there's activity in the house, all the lights are on, there's a deviation in the pattern. And so that's where we get into a lot of trouble with, automatic sprinklers that are going when it's raining, all these types of things. So that's where really IoT is kind of changing the game.
And machine learning, I think, too, right? You mentioned anomalies. Like if the house detects more presence or different patterns, then it needs to learn that kind of like your Nest does. It needs to learn that now may not be the right time to go to sleep.
Now your company's about octopuses, but apparently, and I don't know where I'm going with this question, but apparently there was an early spider that was really. Apparently you like things with legs. One of your first successes was a spider. Could you explain this one?
So that was part of our Intel partnership when we were called Skynet. Intel was playing a lot with robotic insects and trying to play with this idea of IoT and embedded chipsets, and they basically powered a small army of spiders, all connected to our early Skynet platform. And then, of course, all of my demos to investors early on were about controlling armies of drones together at the same time, and not even thinking. The message was, this is a machine-machine messaging platform. Here's all the interesting things you can do. And when Citrix acquired us, the new stack, next stack, announced that Citrix was acquiring a drone operating system company. I was like, well, maybe some of our demos were a little wild.
Okay, so let's talk about some of your demos. From what I can tell, OctoBlu is basically an IoT Babel fish. Is that sticking with the science fiction here? Is that more or less accurate?
I think it is. There's like several layers, I think, of OctoBlu, but I think you're spot on. I think its best features, it knows how to talk to anything and let anything talk to anything else, and that's irregardless of protocol. So at the core of OctoBlu is something we call MeshBlu. MeshBlu is a mesh network global mesh network kind of sounds familiar.
And blue, kind of like the sky, right?
Well, everything we have doesn't have an E at the end, so it's
no,
like
but the Skynet.
Yeah.
I'm thinking
Yeah.
of.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. And so it knows how to let like maybe an MQTT device, maybe like this, talk to a CoAP device. I'm looking for a little here, maybe like this, like a little drone up here or something like that. CoAP MQTT. Maybe you have WebSockets, HTTP, whatever. It lets all of these different machines talk to each other and routes messages. And there's a security layer and all thing you can say only certain things can discover this guy. Maybe he's a military type application, so only certain things can discover them or message him or subscribe to him. So that's one layer. Then on top of that, there's another layer that the website, if you've been to the website, there's a beautiful, kind of like the elegant octopus. It's a beautiful drag and drop designer that you can say, when this thing bumps into a wall, do 100 other things, like tell something, or turn the light screen, do all of these other things. And then when you hit play, we have a computing engine, a flow engine that basically is watching for all these designs and then keeping those automated. At the same time, we do have streaming technology that can stream all of this activity up to a big data store, and then, to your point earlier, apply machine learning or artificial intelligence on top of that. And then we did keep the platform open enough so that any machine learning or AI platform connected to OctoBlu can then say, hey, I see that motor getting hot. I want to turn the fan on. It can message OctoBlu and say, now start that automation over there that turns that fan on in London, for instance. So that's near that motor or whatever.
So completely network independent, and the examples you gave were mostly IP related, but you could do Bluetooth, you could do cellular type of whatever, because the network's not part of OctoBlu. I mean, that's just another input coming in.
Absolutely, it's agnostic basically to networks and radios and protocols is the mission.
And so back to your example where you do all these things at home, you turn on the TV, you adjust the lights, whatever. All those things being, right now, if you had the Nest thermostat, you had the TV remote control, you had, I don't know how you're going to get the beer delivered to you. I guess you need a robot.
I need a robot, yeah.
Yeah, but all these things that may have separate remotes or separate apps, you could potentially interface with those. So that must be kind of hard, because a lot of these devices out there are not really open. They're meant to be like my home. They're meant to be all tied into one system. So can you reverse engineer those? You hack those, or what happens there?
Yeah, some of it is a little bit of hacking. Some of it is just using maybe their APIs that they prescribe to do things like that. So back in the open source vein of discussion, we built this open plugin architecture for building connectors. So things that are maybe a little bit legacy or proprietary in nature, you can write a very small JavaScript connector that tells OctoBlu how to talk to this proprietary device and vice versa. So we've made those open source. We've made them open plugins so that if you have something in your home that we haven't thought about yet or haven't connected to OctoBlu yet, and you're a developer or you're at least savvy enough to say it kind of works like this other device, you can go grab that other device's JavaScript off our website, clone it, fork it, make a change or two on the way its protocol works.
Yeah.
And then either send us a pull request, or you can use it even without telling us about it. We've built this thing that you can plug it into the designer and then use it for your own good. But
so do you envision OctoBlu being a platform itself for IoT, and you're going to places like SparkFun and buying parts, or do you envision it more of a manager of managers, right, where you've got maybe a buddy platform or a Fant platform or some other platform that you're communicating with?
Well, it's both. It's definitely a full stack IoT platform that you could build. You could start building your next home automation or office automation or industrial automation on top of it. But we have, with the spirit of openness, we have connected OctoBlu to AT&T's M2X IoT platform. We've connected it to IBM's Bluemix platform, Azure IoT, and AWS IoT. So to your second point, I think it could be becoming a manager of some respect, where if you have a device on Bluemix that you want to talk to a device on AT&T's IoT network, you could use OctoBlu to bridge all of those.
Interesting.
Protocols. Yeah.
Interesting. So maybe you can't share this question, but what attracted Citrix to this? And this is not Citrix. Citrix is not in this space, or at least it was not in this space.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So let me add one more caveat. So the things, when we talk about connecting anything to everything, we initially were thinking industrial sensors, smart devices, and wearable devices. And then when we started getting involved with Citrix, we were just starting to think REST APIs as well. So now imagine this: you've got hundreds or thousands of smart devices on the market today, and like 50 billion coming like in 4 or 5 more years, right? Wearable devices, and now any system, any REST API exposed on any system, like Salesforce, for instance, or Twitter or Facebook, are now connected to OctoBlu. We started playing with Citrix products in the early, right before the acquisition, around NetScaler, which is Citrix's load balancing platform. Started playing with all the GoTo, meeting, GoTo Assist, GoTo, all of those properties, connected them. ZenApp, Receiver, ShareFile, all of Citrix's products. And I think Citrix saw 2 things that they were really excited about. One, they saw that it was really easy to connect even their own products together to do even more interesting things, and connect their products to the world and the world to their products. Like Salesforce, when this happens in Salesforce, do this in ShareFile, all this stuff. But one other thing, they also saw an interesting idea that every office or every enterprise has this the smart offices of the future, and time that's wasted in patient visits with doctors, where Citrix is already in, all the systems are already in there. Time wasted starting a meeting, where Citrix is already in those spaces. That if OctoBlu could automatically detect, Dave walked into the conference room, let's check if Dave has a meeting. Oh, he does? Maybe let me use Twilio or Tropo to dial the bridge, so that now you're not fumbling with a phone number anymore. The bridge is ringing as you walk into the room. And then, hey, take your presentation and Chromecast it up on the big display. So now you've probably just saved that annoying 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of every meeting by just using OctoBlu.
Have you seen the Cisco demo, what they do when they basically do that using, you walk in, it detects your Bluetooth on your phone, it knows you're there, it checks your conferencing, and then you activate it through your cell phone, and it comes up on the room system. So you're not that far off. Maybe that was going on when you were at Tropo, or I don't know, but
yeah, I think people have been trying to solve that one for a long time, and I think the way at the pace of new technology, some of those you might have to throw away and keep rebuilding every 3 years too.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings me to this next question about IoT. So I'm getting really sick of IoT. It's brand new, which of course we just described as not, but the term is becoming meaningless, right? Because basically anything that can connect doesn't have to be smart either. Sensors or IoT. Anything that can somehow connect or even aggregate it or whatever is an IoT thing, which is basically everything now. And so IoT is kind of becoming meaningless. I tell people that I'm focusing on enterprise-related IoT. And I thought that narrowed it down sufficiently, but I'm finding it doesn't. So when I say enterprise IoT to you, what do you hear?
I hear very similar use cases to home, but applied to business. So I see like citizen developers, maybe that don't want to wait on IT to build something for them. They can take something like OctoBlu and basically start automating their jobs, by saying, hey, when this work order comes in, do all of these other things. So when we look at it, I'm agreeing with you. I think IoT is a buzzword that I hear 100 times a day. And to be honest with you, I think in the next 3 to 5 years, it won't even be something we talk about. I think it'll be something that's expected. Right? Like when I walk into this room, it's kind of like kids that want to walk up and touch the TV and it doesn't do anything.
Right.
Because they play with
it was about 10 years ago. We were at another house and my kid wanted me to pause the TV. And I said, we can't do that here. And he was just like, "What do you mean you can't pause it?" I mean, how do you explain to a 5-year-old or whatever, that you can't pause TV? And I remember just a few years earlier how hard it was to explain to people that you could pause live TV. It was just, totally flip around.
Yep. I think that's IoT in 5 years. I think when you say, I can't do that, the people are going to look at you like you're crazy. Like this is the way it's always been. This is the way it's expected to be.
So what I find interesting is that a lot of people can get hung up on the connectivity with IoT, and so my whatever thing that was a tangible device that was dumb, and now it's connected somehow. So that makes it IoT, and that's the value prop. I don't think that's the value prop. I think the value prop is much more around two things. One is from a business perspective, making the products better, because we've never understood how people use products before.
Yep.
But also it's really much more about creating entirely new kinds of businesses that we can never do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how does your OctoBlu fit into those two realms?
I think you're spot on. I think I'm hearing numbers anywhere from like in the next 5 years, IoT creating $3 trillion to somewhere like $19 trillion marketplace. And to your point, I think these are new business opportunities. So I think that's part of the buzz of the moniker that everyone's trying to figure out, what does IoT mean to my existing business?
Yeah.
How can I leverage it to either be more competitive or maybe create a whole new line of business that doesn't exist today? And I think that's what's creating all of the buzz. People are trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it's kind of a multi-generational thing, because one of the popular examples I hear about IoT is vending machines, and the first case scenario is now only go out to the machine to refill it when it's empty. Mm-hmm. Now if it's out of order, it'll dispatch, and that's all kind of rudimentary. It's like, okay, big deal. So you save the trip a week or whatever. But the next level of that's what I find interesting, is when they talk about, well, vending machines have always sold junk food because junk food has a 50-year lifespan, shelf life. Now you can put in perishable fresh fruits and salads and stuff like that, and the machine can be smart enough to either say it's past its sell by date and disable that one function, or when the salad is sold, to call and say, bring them a new fresh salad or whatever. To me, it's a whole new business model. We've never had healthy vending machines. We've never had these types of things. So that's why I think it gets really interesting and exciting.
Well, and I think for once we have real-time data streaming in from these devices, from these sensors, and you're able to make more informed decisions from a marketing perspective, maybe, to say, let's put some perishables in there. Another idea, all those Coke machines that are all like touchscreen, you can like mix all these different drinks. Yep. I was told that all of those are streaming all of that data back into Coca-Cola, even I think their Salesforce applications, et cetera. And I've heard that they use that data to engineer or create new drinks.
I've heard that. I find that a little dubious, because how many drinks do you really create? But I was also broken, because we were at, I can't remember all the details, I might have this wrong, but we were at a restaurant that had one of those machines, and my kid was so excited, and he engineered his drink on the app. And then he went up to order it, but he had to redo it on the machine. There was no way to send the app information to the machine, and I thought there would be like some sort of barcode scan or something like that, and then have your drink come out here. But no, because then you could have like your James Bond, shaken not stirred, your exact recipe right on your mobile device and just go anywhere and do it. But apparently it wasn't there yet. But it's just a matter of time.
I ate at a restaurant yesterday too that had one of those, and I offered to refill my wife's drink, and she said, "You'll never figure it out." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she mixed two different settings, like did one shot of one and another shot of another one. It was a little too complicated for me.
Modern cooking. All right, so I'm going to ask you a real tough question here, and this has really been bothering me. So I'm hoping you have an answer to this one, and if you don't, I won't hold it against you.
All righty.
We always use terms in I guess in our industry, but in certainly other industries, that we think just clarifies everything. Unified communications is a great one. Nobody really knows what it means, but we use it as if we all agree that there's a clear definition of this. One of the terms that's really bothering me is a platform. People talk about this is not an application, it's a platform. And I thought I knew what a platform was, but the more I think about it, the more I'm finding everything is a platform. Databases are platforms, operating systems are platforms, and then of course middleware are platform. So I was wondering if you had any thoughts as a developer and an entrepreneur. What is a platform? Do you have any? Can you help me get my hands around this one?
Yeah, in my mind, it is kind of simple. And you're right. There's a lot of things that are basically platforms in this definition. But if a developer can create a new product or service using it, then it's a platform.
So does that mean that a product like OctoBlu is on several platforms? I mean, because you're using, like I said, databases, operating systems, libraries. You know, you're using mobile OSs. Yep. I mean, all these things. And so does that? So the concept of maybe that's where I'm getting some stumbling. Is I think of a platform as a single platform you build something on like a foundation for a house, but is it just a whole collection of platforms?
It is. But what a platform should be doing is abstracting all of that from the users and the developers. So if you're building on the OctoBlu platform, you should be agnostic. You should not care what databases we're using, what cloud service we're running in. You should just have to care about the OctoBlu connectivity and then let us handle everything below. So I think if a platform service does it properly, it appears as one platform to the developer, the user, and it abstracts everything else.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. If I were to like diagram all the components we use, we're using platforms of platforms to deliver this.
Yeah. So back to the enterprise angle here, and we'll wrap up in just a minute or two. But back to the enterprise angle. Do you know in technology when we talk about the enterprise, we talk about selling the company, like we talked about vending machines here a minute ago. So you go to Coke and you sell them a new vending machine technology, and that's how they differentiate and stay competitive and all that stuff. So there's that type of enterprise technology, but there's also the type of enterprise technology you sell to the CIO. That this is not so much the CTO or the competitive side of the business, but the operational side of the business. And do you think IoT has plays on both sides? And what are your thoughts on that?
It does, and what Citrix has learned is that when you try to reach out to a company to say, hey, would you like some more Zen app clusters or Zen desktops, you get one level, kind of a mid-level manager that's responsible for procurement and buying those things. When you reach out to that same company and you say, would you like to talk about your IoT strategies or you know how now OctoBlu can do things with the Zen app that you're talking about? You get to the CIO, you get to a CXO in the company, that it moves from a tactical discussion to a strategic discussion. And we've seen this in the university space quite a bit, where the CIOs are saying, oh my gosh, if I can automate a classroom when the professor walks in, you know, basically start my online, my online classrooms, control the lights and everything of the room. I'm doing a few things. One, I'm saving money by bringing that room to life when I need it. I'm adding value to the professor's life and to the students' lives. So now there are, I don't know if they're monetary necessarily, but they're goodwill that you're creating in your environment, that this becomes a very strategic discussion of how you solve problems rather than buying products.
Yeah, and it's also amazing to me how often we exacerbate the problems because of the Denver airport, where I live, Southwest, where I fly. I never read the city and gate thing on the screen because I know I got my boarding pass, I got my mobile app, so I just go there. Where I need to read them is when the flights are delayed and things are all that stuff. And Denver Airport has this all automated. So the signs are 100% always wrong when the flights are delayed. And half the people lining up at the desk are saying, is this really going to San Jose? No, it's going to San Antonio. San Jose is, but it's like you can't change the signs. It's just so ridiculous.
Sounds like they need some OctoBlu.
It goes back to that earlier automation. It's just not intelligent enough.
Yeah.
Does OctoBlu have intelligence?
Well, I think it does, and we've made it open enough where you can add your own, right? If you have a preferred machine learning platform or a preferred AI platform, you can stream all of OctoBlu's data to really any big data store or ML or AI.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And you can get all of your source code is available on GitHub, or how?
Yeah. So like I said, probably 80 to 90% of the entire stack is open source. It's all on GitHub.com/OctoBlu. There's probably almost 1,000 repositories out there that are open source. So there's a lot. We've been pretty busy.
Wow. And Citrix doesn't plan on changing that.
No. So I mean, where we see value at, I mean, I read an article a while back in Fortune magazine, and it was talking about the IoT platform race, that there's so much money, so much opportunity, and they predicted that the winning platform would be open source, and for reasons like it builds trust, it builds communities, and that's something that at the culture or the heart of OctoBlu we have embraced from the very beginning, and we've got a fantastic developer community. And we see as opportunities to add, applications on top of OctoBlu that add value to the stack, and that's our 10% or whatever that's proprietary today.
Well, that's really exciting. I'm very happy for you. It sounds like things are coming together just the way you had, just the way Skynet had envisioned it. You're going to be doing a keynote at Things Expo. Is that accurate?
I gave the keynote at last year's Things Expo. I think I will be again this year. And I just heard from AstraCon in September in Glendale, Arizona. I'm giving day 2 keynote there as well. And that one will be called The Asterisk of Things. So,
very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Well, again, thank you very much. It's good to see you again. And I look forward to following your ventures. Well,
likewise, Dave. Thank you so much.
Thank you.